About the only solace I can take with this movie is that I am not alone in hating it. And I just realized I should turn off my phone so that I do not get interrupted. Well, mute my phone anyway. Not really turn it off. Where the fuck do I even begin? Well, let's start with the fact that it took me basically all afternoon to get this going. I spent the past creeping up on 5 hours now trying to watch this movie. Yes, 5 hours trying to watch two versions of a movie that should take me, little over 3 hours to do. I spent an extra two. That should really say everything it needs to, in my opinion. The funny thing is that I thought I was going to really be raging at this movie, and I am, for the most part. I stand behind the fact that the thumbnail is going to be me flipping the poster off, because seriously, fuck this movie. That is going to be the extent of the poster, by the way. Hey, I'll probably put rant view on the thing, and then I'll probably and I'll have the movie poster, or at least some version of the movie poster up on the thing. Oh fuck. I've been thinking about where to begin, and I think I'm going to go ahead and mention two things. The first is for you sub only watchers, do yourself a favor and look up this movie's page on the wiki sometime. I know. Fandom is awful and everything, and it's why I say grain of salt with it. But you know, it's the only Yu-Gi-Oh wiki I have, so shrug. For the most part, I use it for more so for card effects than anything. But it's funny how the wiki just has an entire just a cavalcade, a mountain of text talking about the minor differences between the two versions. Now, yes, the plot is different between the two versions, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's not. This is probably the most divergent the sub and the dub have ever been. Obviously, so far, we'll see if the Doma arc, lends itself to that, and it will for the most part. Oh, where the fuck do I even begin? Well, let's start with the fact of how this movie even came into being. Because this movie was actually released in Japan, believe it or not, after the series had already concluded. Now 4Kids had basically commissioned this during season 3 and released it, believe it or not, before the Battle City finals wrapped up. Which means that you were actually if you went to go see this movie, you were actually spoiled on what the Battle City Finals outcome was going to be. Now, obviously, the dub would lie to you, and obviously that's the dub, and the dub would lie to you about who Yugi's final opponent is. But there's literally a shot of Merrick handing Yugi raw, so yeah, spoilers abound. Funny how that works. Regardless of any of that, though. Oh, yeah, 4Kids basically. Now, okay, we know 4Kids commissioned this movie. We know that. Okay. But basically everything else of what I'm about to say about it all is going to be conjecture. Conjecture. Sorry about that. That was a cat interrupting me. Right, okay. So, everything I'm basically going to say past this point is going to be mostly conjecture, because the entirety of what isn't conjecture is that 4Kids commissioned the movie. Now, the conjecture on my part is whether or not whether or not Warner Brothers was pressuring them, or 4Kids came up with the idea themselves. Either or, they basically went to Gallup and said, do you have anything in the docket? And they didn't. So Gallup basically was commissioned to make a movie, and then it was released, and then an edit of this movie for Japanese audiences basically went ahead and was debuted, limited release in the theaters in Japan, in Japanese theaters, and also it was while GX was airing. Now, that did give them a chance to foreshadow the Light of Destruction action later on in the movie, so that's cool. But for the most part, everybody had already, in Japan, everybody had basically already moved on. Which, yeah, for the most part, I don't know what the official canonicity of this movie is, and frankly, I don't look at that shit. But as far as I know, it is not canon, because there's too many things that kind of contradict it. Even the whole foreshadowing of the Light of Destruction is just kind of there. And we'll see what I think of the Light of Destruction when I get to GX. But, don't hold your breath about it being very good, about my thoughts on it being very good. That having been said, where the fuck do I even begin? So yeah, 4Kids basically commissioned this thing, and wow, this thing sucks. What's funny is that it's more so about it being boring than anything else, but that was basically Gallup's issue. The fact of the matter is that there were two things that went wrong with this. The fact that they even tried to do something, that would conform to, to their series, but also, make a version, conform to their series, but also make one that could be edited by 4Kids. Now, a lot of people say that, because there is an additional 11 minutes of footage, the Japanese version is 11 minutes longer than the English version. Everybody jumps on the fact that there's critical stuff that they cut out, that the dub cuts out. Yes and no. Yes, they cut out some plot details. No, I don't think those plot details are very important. I don't. I don't see them as super important. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't mean that. I don't mean that in the terms of, it's it's ridiculously easy to see this thing, to see this thing and understand it, and it even in the dub. No, this thing makes no sense in either version, because it's full of plot holes. Characters acting completely out of character, not the least of which being Seto Mokuba. Um, Pegasus is one. Yeah, those three are the big ones, and then there's like minor things that are just bad with everybody else. So there's that. And then there's the problems with the lore, but we can get into that as we go. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to jump right into it, and I'm going to be jumping back and forth between my notes. notes because 2 pages for the sub, 1 page for the dub. And yes, we are on my what I like to call my movie notebook because I am not sullying my thing with the small one. I mean, I would love to do, I would love to go ahead and have DSOD in the in the moleskin book, but I'm just gonna. That's the company that makes these notebooks, by the way. I would love to have my main episode notebook have DSOD, but I'll probably put it in this thing, like I did with this movie. And yes, apparently both versions are actually called Pyramid of Light. Fun fact. So we start off with the origin. Now, initially, I was going to rail against this, like super hard. The only real differences with this opening, thing, there's actually 4 points I wrote down. The subtitles I was following, which were fan subs, said 5,000 years ago in them, which is dumb because every other translation of that opening narration says 3,000. There's also less narration during it because we actually get more dialogue from Yugi than the archaeologists, and we get more dialogue from Anubis and Yugi than we do from the archaeologists and the narrator. Because the narrator, right after it cuts over to Yugi, in the sub, the narrator shuts up and he never comes back, which just kind of makes the narration pointless. Now, the narration in the dub is repetitive, right? It was never meant to happen, and for 5,000 years it didn't. It was never meant to happen, and for 5,000 years it never did. And then it was never meant to happen, but after 5,000 years it did, right? With only the third time they say it basically being any real, having any real difference. So, yeah. So Yugi makes a wish, wishes for friends, and then he's attacked by the shadow creatures. That's kind of dumb. I prefer the way Atem tells them to fuck off I prefer the way Atem tells them to fuck off in the dub than in the sub. Go figure. Anubis announces himself in the sub. Hub. And then we also get a brief interlude by Grandpa, who mentions him becoming the ruler of darkness, because there's this whole King of Light, King of Darkness thing that this movie is going for, and it's kind of dumb. Not gonna lie. When the King of Light defeats the King of Darkness, the King of Destruction will show up, which is just whatever. So they never mention a time frame in the sub, but the dub has a plot hole. So Anubis woke up and sat on his ass for 3 years. The big question I have is, how long did he wait? Now we know for a fact, and by my estimation, because of the tech increase, the tech level increase, that was even present in the manga. I know DSOD kind of goes fast and loose because of a rapid increase in technology, but I would argue if you actually pay attention, technology gets ridiculously more advanced, and it's even within a few short years, right? So depending on how many years DM is supposed to take place over the course of, well, there you go, you know. But anyways, who? So yeah, Anubis wakes up traps, kills the archaeologists. By the way, the dub of this thing is way more violent than you would expect from 4Kids. They really push that PG rating. I wonder if that was just the theaters would let them show more violence, and that's why they figured they could get away with it. So then we get the exposition broadcast, which is actually more of just a bunch of people looking at videos of Yugi's past duels and reading articles about them, which also have Jinochi, which makes everybody treating Jinochi like he's a nobody kind of fucking stupid. But whatever. I also hope you like the cameos from Mai, Rex, and Weevil, because that's literally their entire contribution to this film. With Rex, Weevil, and Mai going on to be assholes in the Doma arc. That from where I am currently in the Doma arc, which is after the creator returns, yeah, they've already fucking shown. I had to wait until like yesterday from my perspective to rent this movie, because I'm not fucking buying this movie. I will rent it on YouTube, but I will not buy it on YouTube. YouTube is where I watched it, for the record. But yeah, no. So the exposition broadcast comes in, and then we get the mob, the duelist mob. I'll talk about the simulated duel in a minute. I'm actually, because I've got a structure I want to flow with this, and I want to start with the dueling mob. This movie has too many ideas, and that is its problem, because there are effectively three plots. Now, two of those plots do dovetail into each other actually decently well. That being the Anubis plot and the let's fucking character assassinate Kaiba plot. Oh, I'm not shying away from that. This movie fucking character assassinates Kaiba. Completely. But we'll get into the big moment that does that a bit later. If you've seen this movie, you know exactly what it is. And is. All I'm gonna say is the anti-rule and move on, and leave it at that for right now, because we're not talking about that just yet. Weird audio balancing during the simulated duel, if I may be so bold. Did I have anything to say on that? Oh yeah, the dueling mob is even worse in the fucking sub. But I'll get to that in a second. So a whole bunch of people gather outside of Domino High. It's implied that they're from like all over the place, which is just what? But we'll leave that alone for now. So, yeah, I only put 3 notes about the dueling mob. So then Joey duels the dueling mob, makes a joke about being the godfather of games in the dub. Talks about how he was 4th place in Battle City, which all of these fucking morons should know. Just straight up, all of these fucking morons should know. But of course, because people are fucking more paint and guzzling dipshits on a regular fucking basis, they don't care. And yes, I am pissy about that. Ed, thanks for asking. Because I don't need a fucking reminder of how absolutely shit people are. Sorry for being cynical, but it's fucking true. I work retail, so I see firsthand just how fucking shit-tastic people are. And how much the law protects criminals over actual fucking people. Yes. And yes, I will say it like that. Sorry, I'm more pissy about real life than I am about this movie. Go figure. So in the sub, they actually do have Lily attack on the first turn. Injection Fairy Lily attack on the first turn. Complete with the dude literally paying the 2,000 life points to increase her attack by 3,000. What? Apparently, we're playing by hey, fuck the rules. This plot point was badly written. Screw the rules. This was written by 4 kids. There you go. I mean, at least in the dub, you can kind of treat it as a gag. You know, fucking Macho Man, the fucking buff, the fucking Macho Man, and the fucking douchebag cousin of Duke Nukem there, are pulling a gag. Then Yugi kind of pokes his head back out. They trampled Tristan and Joey and Tristan uh, because because we have to disrespect the gang again, either by which has been happening a lot in like everything. Whatever. And that kind of dovetails into the Anubis stuff because then Yugi and Taya head to the museum in order to hide from the duelist mob. So then we got to talk about Kaiba. Let's shift back over to Kaiba now, because in order to talk about about Anubis and how he causes that nightmare for Pegasus, we got to talk about the way this movie treats Kaiba. Spoilers: it's not very good. In fact, Kaiba is treated worse in this movie, in my opinion, than he is in any capacity in D-Sod. Now, do his actions kind of make no sense depending on your interpretation of Seto Kaiba and D-Sod? Yes, absolutely. I can kind of see where somebody would be coming from with that if they weren't paying attention to the actual what was actually being said on screen or being actually shown. Especially if you don't subscribe to the Yugi and Atem always merging together to duel. But that's something I'll talk about more in D-Sod. All I'm gonna say is that Seto fights Atem, not Yugi, and leave it at that for now. Even in this movie. But yeah, so Pegasus. Wow. So Pegasus has the nightmare. Anubis sets up his trap. So then we get the simulated duel with some weird audio balancing in the dub. Yugi seems really quiet in that scene, which is weird. So initially, I was going to criticize the fact that Kaiba attacked, and basically say, he's either replays, either replays don't exist, and you have to continue the attack, or he's an idiot. But no, Simulation Kaiba is just a fucking moron. Why? He doubles the attack of Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon when all 3 God cards are on the field, including Obelisk. The one he held for all of Battle City. Why does he not realize about the Soul Energy Max thing? Now I know you can say, well, that's the simulation. That's a simulation, Blue Wolf. It's not the real Kaiba. Yeah, but I thought the idea of simulating something is that you simulate it as close to one as you can. Because I'm sorry, I think Kaiba would think twice about attacking and would just wait for Obelisk to frickin' have his attack points shrunk. It's so stupid. Speaking of stupid, in both versions, the scientists basically say that they thought they were close to having a winning stratagem at that point. So yeah, my note in the sub just says it all. How did you think that was gonna go? Come on, you have data from Battle City to frickin' analyze. I mean, for God's sakes, you morons, and just go watch the fucking Yugi versus Merrick dub. I mean, I did not that long ago. For fuck's sakes. Then there's Seto's line as he's firing the scientists and the Seto's line, in which is just he says that he has to destroy the past to carve the way to the future, which makes excuse me, which makes no fucking sense whatsoever because that's not how that works. You don't need to destroy the past to pave the way for the future. You need to build upon the past. Even Grima got this right, for fuck's sakes. The future is built upon the past. He didn't say the future comes from the destruction of the past. As he said is built upon the past. Now, in that context, Grima meant destroying the past, but still. So that's probably a bad example. But I mean, like, Kaiba's Duel Tower. Which I still say he didn't need to blow up Alcatraz Island, but whatever. We'll leave it be. Because I'm done bitching about that shit. Notice how I'm not even that far into the movie, and I've already been going for half an hour, by the way. This is not boding well. Meanwhile, Pegasus has his nightmare. In the dub, he's like, okay, that's it. No more white wine spritzers before bedtime for me. Wait, I thought you drank fruit juice in both versions. When did you switch to white wine spritzers? Huh. So, Kaiba goes ahead and he pays Pegasus a visit. Oh boy. Okay. All right. So he goes to visit Pegasus. You know, Pegasus is all delighted. Oh, good to see you, Kaiba boy, and everything, right? In the dub, Pegasus talks about how Yugi has thoroughly trounced Kaiba again and again and again. Yes, it's been so many times that Kaiba has lost to Yugi twice. No, seriously, think about it for a second. Yugi has only beaten Kaiba twice. Once right in Heart of the Cards, the very first episode, and in Clash of the Colosseum. That's it. Once in episode 1, and again in episode 130. One sec. Need to flip forward. Give me a second. Almost there. And once again, in 134 specifically. Two times in 134 episodes is not again and again. But they treat it like it's been happening again and again and again. So unless this was an inside gag of how many times older episodes, those two episodes in particular, were rerun before this movie, which wouldn't be the case because Clash in the Coliseum didn't debut before this movie came out. I'm 99% sure. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and look that up just right now, right quick while I'm here. Here, this will not take me long. Give me a moment. Because I know exactly what monster I need to, what card I need to look up. In order to see it. Okay. $134. Or when did you debut in English? English episode. July 3rd, 2004. This debuted in August of 2004, so never mind. They actually got to this episode before Pyramid of Light came out. Ugh. But yeah, no, this... So, yeah, there you go. So yeah, twice. Twice, regardless. That's just lame, you know? I'm not even going to point out the song You're Not Me. The music, it's funny because the music is actually well directed in the dub, and the music is just better in the sub, but the sub is cheating because the sub is using the Japanese soundtrack. With a few exceptions. Much like the end song on Fire, which is actually really cool. I recommend looking it up. It's a good song. So yeah, Pegasus acts like a dick, Hick in the dub. And then he points out that he says that Kaiba is being too reckless. He is, his desire is too dangerous to accept. Whatever. Ever. It's dumb. And then the movie completely character assassinates Seto Kaiba. In both versions, he basically says, we'll play by an ante-rule. You put up the card I need to surpass the god cards. The card I need to beat Yugi, as he put it, in in the dub. And Seto claims that he'd be willing to wager. He holds up 3 cards and says he will wager these. No! I'm not even going to beat around the fucking bush on this one. No! That is not something that Seto Kaiba would do in any capacity, regardless of which continuity you're following. Sub, dub, abridged, hinged. I don't fucking buy it. Unlike Fate of the Pharaoh, where I can say, oh yeah, I could probably, that's probably the one the one continuity where, where the Pharaoh would actually activate the Seal of Orichalcos. No, I don't buy for a millisecond that Seto Kaiba would ever utilize fucking wager his Blue Eyes White Dragons. There is no way in hell you're going to convince me that Seto fucking Kaiba would ever risk his fucking blue eyes. And That's regardless of whether or not he believes in magic. Because it's one of two things. Because either way, there's one flaw in the idea that he would ever risk it in a duel against Pegasus. He knows Pegasus has underhanded tactics. So why would he trust it to that? Now you could say, oh, it's because he's sure that Pegasus's strategies will be super outdated. Sure. But he didn't know that until little Pegasus played Toon World. So, no, doesn't work. Doesn't work. My opinion. I don't see any continuity where he would be desperate enough to wager his fucking blue eyes. Anubis influence or not, which is questionable in the sub, and a little more blatant in the dub. So then we get into the duel of Kaiba versus. Did I really write that down as Kaiba versus Kaiba? Oh god, he's not fighting Mokuba. Mokuba, that is Pegasus. I think initially I was going to say Pegasus versus Kaiba. So Pegasus uses Toon World, and he comes out with two new Toon monsters. Well, as far as the dub knows, because the sub actually had two or three new Toon monsters revealed by the time this movie came out in Japan. But we get two of them in this movie for two new ones in the dub for this movie. Toon Gemini Elf and then Toon Dark Magician Girl. So he starts with Toon Gemini Elf. Kaiba has a very interesting opening hand. Return from the Different Dimension. It's Return from the Different Dimension. All three of the XYZ cards. And Attack Guidance Armor. And Monster Reborn. That's the, I think. Or was it Monster Reborn? Shoot, I don't remember now. Soul Release. That was it. Soul Release was the other one. Which means Kaiba got lucky, because that could have screwed over his strategy. But anywho, so then Toon Dark Magician Girl comes out after Kaiba bitches about Pegasus having proper dueling etiquette and explaining cost down. Calls out Toon Dark Magician Girl, attacks Kaiba directly, which gets rid of Monster Reborn out of his hand after he activated Card of Sanctity. And then, Pegasus starts dueling terribly. His battle phase is over. So what does he do? He starts paying fuck tons of life points to get out Blue Eyes Toon Dragon and Toon Summon Skull. He pays 1,000 life points. That's terrible. Because if he didn't do that, he might have actually survived the next turn. Granted, only with 100 life points left, but, I mean, that would have been something. Because then, in Dark Core is used by Kaiba in order to discard Y Dragon Head and remove X Head Cannon from play. And then Soul Release removes Y Dragon Head from the game, and then Return from the Different Dimension brings back both X and X Head Cannon and Y Dragon Head, so that Kaiba can blast this Toon World and to go ahead and win the duel. Also, he has a very hypocritical speech in the sub. Seto has a hypocritical speech in the sub. He's so fixated on the past, and yet he says that those that are stuck in the past can never move forward. So why are you allowing yourself to be stuck in the past, Seto? Fuck the god cards. Move on. Get yourself a girlfriend. and raise a family. Something. That's why if in a rewrite project, we're actually going to make it so that Seto moves on. Oh, I don't have the god cards anymore, but they will help on Yugi's journey? Sure. Or whatever. Move on. Because I don't care. Looks like he had 2 cards, Pegasus. 2 cards? What do you mean, Kaiba? There was only 1. Yeah, right. Nice try, you snake. So, yeah. So then this dovetails into the Anubis plot as Yugi has a vision at the museum, which apparently Grandpa recognizes in the sub. And yeah. So then they're brought back. So then after the vision, Anubis disappears along with the Pyramid of Light. Right. Then in both versions, Mokuba comes in and says that Seto has not been himself. Both Kaiba and Seto have not been themselves. Both versions of Mokuba say that their brother has not been himself lately. Which, I don't know why some people seem to miss that that's in the dub. But whatever. So then we get into the main event proper. I do like Atem's reason for accepting in the sub. It's because Kaiba won't listen. Simply put. So the duel starts and Kaiba starts talking about, how Atem has taken credit for being the best duelist for way too long, blah 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 blah. I could make a joke about a specific YouTuber, but I'm not going to. Who? Because I kind of don't care. Moving on. So then Kaiba calls out Familiar Knight. Atem destroys Familiar Knight, which allows Kaiba to bring out Rare Metal Dragon, which actually is kind of a cool move. And he's being so helpful because that allows him to get out King's Knight. And as we established, normal or special, Jack's Knight comes out when both King and Queen are on when King shows up and it comes out in the presence of the Queen. I mean, I could make a sex joke, but let's just move on. So then Atem gets out Osiris. Yes, I am still refusing to call it by the dub names because of course I am. So Osiris comes out, blasts Rare Metal Dragon, and then Kaiba uses obligatory summon to force Obelisk and Ra to join the party, and then the trap card version of Pyramid of Light shows up and banishes all the god cards. Cool. Yugi is then sucked into the puzzle along with Joey and Tristan, so that subplot can go, and he can prophesize destruction and foreshadow the light of destruction, and blah 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 blah. I have nothing to say about the Inside the Millennium Puzzle plot because it's just there. I got nothing to say about it. What can I say? So then Kaiba uses Mystical Space Typhoon to get rid of Mirror Force, and then summons Penton the Dark Clown, which takes a stabs Yugi, and we actually see the silhouette of the stab in the dub. Like I said, this movie is more violent even than the dub. It's kind of funny in that regard. Then Kaiba uses Deck Destruction Virus to start whittling away at Yugi's deck. Okay. Deck destruction virus is not as cheap as crush card. I'll admit that. Because yeah, no. So then after so then Paladin of White Dragon comes out, smacks Magician's Valkyria, who is then brought back with premature burial and equipped with one of my personal favorite equipped cards of all time, Mage Power, which Yugi uses some face downs to boost her power by 2,000 points to try and get rid of Blue Eyes, which of course doesn't work. The Blue Eyes specifically summoned by by Paladin of White Dragon, by the way. So then Yugi brings out Sorcerer of Dark Magic after Kaiba brings out Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Hagen. And then after the anime version of Sorcerer of Dark Magic can negate trap cards and destroy them, even when it's just their effects that are activating. Kaiba moves on to call out Blue Eyes Shining Dragon. Now I haven't really talked. I meant to talk about the movie pack, the movie packs, the movie / exclusive packs that were the packs that were associated with this movie, because there was the movie pack which had one of 4 cards that you went to go, so you basically had to see the movie at least 4 times to get all 4 cards. The 4 cards were Pyramid of Light, Wadapon, Sorcerer of Dark Magic, and Blue Eyes Shining. So Blue Eyes Shining kind of has an interesting hiccup with its everything. Now you're probably thinking, what do you mean in a hiccup with its everything? Well, let's just say let's just say that dates are what I'm looking at. Give me a second. Sorry about that. Anyways, so yeah. So Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. So this movie came out obviously in August of 2004. The first time the TCG got. Wait, that can't be right. No, that can't be right. There we go. My apologies. I was like, wait, that can't be right, because the sets that it was showing on the thing were, because I didn't write it down because I'm an idiot. So this movie came out in August of 2004 and gave you Blue Eyes Shining Dragon, which requires Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. The earliest you could have gotten the Blue Eyes White Dragon in North America was if you were to subscribe. Was if you bought. It was if you bought Shonen Jump magazine. The Shonen Jump magazine. Specifically, Volume 4, Issue 1. In January of 2006. 17 months. Sorry, hang on. I may be wrong about that. Hang on. No, 15 months. 15 months later. Roughly. 15 to 16 months later. So, for over a year, I want to stress that part, for over a year, Blue Eyes Shining Dragon was completely useless. outside of maybe you. There's a specific monster that you could have used it in conjunction with. However, I don't know if he was out at the time. So give me a moment. When did you come out? Oof. So, yeah. So, for his intended purpose, he was completely useless until 2006, until January 2006. And there was then there was the one use you could have for him, which was to be in conjunction with Armed Dragon Level 5's effect. That. Now, what's funny is that you might be like, that's a GX card, Blue Wolf. Yeah, but it also came out in 2004. Or, believe it or not. Or, believe it or not. So, and I believe the upgraded level 7 was the same set. Yes, it was. Yeah, so you basically had to wait until October of that year, 2 months later, for it to get any use whatsoever, and you had to think about, and basically had to utilize it. Now, admittedly, Armed Dragon Level 5 is actually a decent monster. No question. It is actually a decent monster. But yeah, Blue Eyes Shining, wow, that thing was weak. I would actually argue Red Eye's Darkness Dragon was actually more potent. So then Blue Eyes Shining causes issues. Obnoxious Celtic Guardian generates a plot hole. Anubis takes over when Kaiba tries to destroy the Pyramid of Light with Shining Nova. Doesn't work because Anubis is a Gary Stu. Yeah, I'm not pulling my punches on this movie. Fuck this movie. Just straight up fuck this movie. So then Anubis takes over. He summons Andro, Sphinx, and Sphinx to Leia. Atem sets reverse. Then the dub makes a very problematic plot hole. In the sub, we can see that he has double spell and exchange. The card that's in Yugi's hand is diffusion wave motion in the dub. Yeah. So shenanigans there, and there was no reason because the sub clearly just showed that. All they had to do was change the text. They didn't have to change the picture, but they changed the picture. Why? Ugh, whatever. So Yugi uses the Dagger of Fate, weakens the puzzle. Double spell brings out Monster Reborn. We try Shining Nova again. This time it works. Thinny and the Great Sphinx shows up, but then Reverse of Reverse is used by Atem to play the last card played by Kaiba, which was, of course, Return from the Different Dimension, which brought back all three of the all three of the Egyptian god cards, and they all combine their powers to beat down Anubis with Titan Firestorm. So then Anubis transforms into its big, ugly beast form, and blasts. It starts blasting everything. Even going so far as in the dub to say that you have no concept of my powers. And I literally just pointed out in my notes, yeah, neither do the writers. So then the contrivance of Kaiba suddenly believing in real monsters shows up. And everything just goes smoothly. And then that's it. That's the end of the movie. I'm not even going to bring up some of the things I wrote down in my sub notes, like the pointlessness of the hieratic text, the fact that D-Sod's going to prove Kaiba wrong, and that the final evolutionary form of Blue Eyes is not going to be Shining Dragon. But that's a topic for another day. And that's it. That's finally the end of this movie. The dub ends, it has its credits roll with a kind of meh song, and an admittedly cool song plays us out in the sub. Ugh. All right. Now, normally that would be the end, right? Like I've said before, if I was just a straight copycat lore runner, that would be the end of this video. But we're not quite done, are we? No. This is a rant view, and I need to make a changes section. So, here's my changes section. It's very simple. Don't have Kaiba be the one doing all this shit at all. No, seriously. Don't have Seto pull this shit. Have Anubis possess him. So, all of that Kaiba stuff that we see at the beginning of the movie, shove that later. Do a time skip. So, Anubis escapes from the museum. Okay, what is he doing and then we cut to 6 months later. Okay, what the hell has he been doing for 6 months? Possessing Seto. Now, Seto is not aware that he is being manipulated. Of course he isn't. Of course he isn't aware, right? He doesn't believe in the occult because he's a moron, and even in the sub because he's a moron, and B, it's kind of just more of a subtle change. The only one who notices is Mokuba, but he is powerless to do anything about it. So he started, and at first it's like, oh, he's just doing research into the God cards. Well, this isn't too bad. All right, fine. It's fine. It's whatever. So I'm just going to go ahead and, I'm going to accept this for now. And then he starts getting mean with his employees. He fires his scientists. He goes after Pegasus to try and find a way to get the God cards. And if we see him possessed by Anubis, and it's revealed that this whole time he's been possessed by Anubis the whole time, and make it crystal fucking clear in the dub, have Scotty Ray's vocals chime in like they do a couple of times near the end, and in the sub just kind of have the whispering in the ear, or have a bit of a whispering in the ear thing. And then everything else is just completely smoothed over. Hell, you could even have the first half an hour of the movie just kind of be Yugi kind of establishing, Joey and Yugi establishing, the new status quo of the world while we're at it, right? If you have to have the stupid dueling mob full of morons, well, have Yugi and Joey just trounce them. Play up some strategies. Maybe bring the boys up against some of those strategies, kind of like you did in the virtual world arc. But whatever. I'm done. I'm so done. Ugh, I'm so done with this shit. I don't know what more I can say at this point. I don't think this is a very good movie. Obviously. I wish it was better because this could have been an opportunity to take the franchise in a brand bold new direction. But no, instead it was just the same old shit, complete with shitting all over Seto. Because of course, I hate this movie, and I will forever hate this movie. I hope you've at least tolerated my ranting about this movie. I will see you next time, where we will move on to the Doma arc at long last. And as I said, I already have the first 3 videos of those recorded. Legend of the Dragons, Higgins, Creator Returns, and A New Evil. All of those are done. So from my perspective, I'm gonna move on to an episode that actually doesn't piss and shit all over Seto Kaiba. Well, in the sub anyway. Anyways, until next time, this is Blue Wolf Alex the Lore Walker signing out. Have a good one. See you in the Dome arc, guys.